transparent, and peaceful. Elections that have expressed, elections that have ensured that the will of the people as expressed at the polls, the elections that have guaranteed that every vote counts. As a country, we take pride in the fact that our electoral processes, initiated since 1992, uphold and guarantee the voter's choice. We take pride in the fact that the voter's choice, as expressed at the polls, is sacrosanct. Ladies and gentlemen, the last 4 years have been spent in injecting and infusing 4 key elements into every aspect of our work. And those elements are transparency, accountability, responsiveness, and inclusiveness. As such, we started the year poised and ready to conduct credible elections. We were conscious that elections were an event and not a process. This resolve led us to undertake several transformational decisions, including the reprinting, re-exhibiting of the Provisional Voters Register for the first time in our history, when concerns were raised about its credibility, as well as opening up the IPAC meetings to the citizenry by allowing the live coverage of all IPAC meetings. Indeed, the decisions to re-exhibit the Provisional Voters Register to allow a further review by political parties and the citizenry, as well as the demystification of the IPAC meeting, has helped diffuse the tensions that were brewing around the Provisional Voters Register. Ultimately, those 2 decisions restored the confidence of the citizens in the Voters Register and cemented Ghana's peace. Again, in the spirit of responsiveness, when complaints were made about the 50 pesos charged voters for the verification of their registration details online, the Commission waived the fee results of the election, attesting to the resilient and robust processes built over the years. And we witnessed this with the concession of the Vice President, even before the declaration of the results by the Electoral Commission. Permanent and temporary, we say, Ayiko, you have worked hard. In law, I will now declare the outcome of the 2024 election. It is important to note that per Regulation 63.3 of the 1992 Constitution of Ghana, the winner of the presidential election must obtain at least 50% plus 1 at the polls to be declared the winner of the election. We have collated the presidential results from all 16 administrative regions, of which 267 of the 276 constituencies have been captured. We have not been able to receive results from 9 constituencies because our offices have been besieged by political party supporters, making it impossible to complete the collation process. That notwithstanding, the presidential results from the 267 constituencies, including the newly created 1 constituency, clearly established the winner of the 2024 presidential election. Simply put, even if all the votes from the 9 constituencies were added to the candidate who placed second, it will not change the outcome of the election. It is important to note that the Commission will update the records on receipt of the presidential results from the 9 outstanding constituencies. Ladies and gentlemen, Now to the results of the 2024 presidential election. And the results will be announced based on the positions of the presidential candidates on the ballot. Mahamudu Bawumia of the NPP obtained 4,657,304, being 41.61%. Accountability. Daniel Augustus Latte Jr. of the GCPP obtained 16,673, being 0.15%. Christian Kwabena Andrews of the Ghana Union Movement obtained 16,461, being 0.15%. Kofi Apalu of the LPG obtained 5,219, being 0.09%. Mohamed Frimpong of the National Democratic Party obtained 4,413, being 0.04%. Nana Akosua Frimpong of the CPP obtained 23,397, being 0.21%. Mr. John Dramani Mahama of the NDC obtained 6 million. Let me take that again. Mr. John Dramani Mahama of the NDC obtained 6,328,397.
I'm telling you this. Oh, studio, live studio, Ghana phone na ebeshe. Ewa hanom. Se do Mahama wini election we ya.
Nka se yempa ejantu mo ka hwe kamera na ka se Mahama wini.
Mahama wini ni akasa me de petrol be gumi ho. Na ma se me ho live studio, live coverage obi abeshe. And I'm not joking with this.
So serious.
On record.
Nasa hwe kamera na ka tie for se Mahama wini election we ya. Obi show abonte with me bow pra.
Dabi. I don't need that. Dabi. Ask me o wini ya na hana na mex na hanu masimi hu ewu na meko.
Yes, wa anye na so bi hu abonte.
Me dia me ka se ma me ye.
Minim so be but that's a
obi anko hu mi.
Back in the studio, sound bites from a year ago, and that last one has Helen shooked, should I say. Elections are an interesting spectacle, I must be honest. Very, very interesting how things played out last year.
If you are not, let's say you are a everyday citizen with, I can't say with no horse in the race, because certainly you've got a preference for who should lead you, who should be in charge of the affairs that concern you. But for those that the stakes are not, life and death and are watching from home, sometimes it can be super, super entertaining. My goodness, taking this trip down memory lane, a lot happened last year during the general elections. The good, the bad, the ugly. We've tried to amalgamate that and give you a feel of what town was like just about a year ago, from the declarations that were made. Some of it were prophecies, but more importantly to that conversation is how we also assess the year since the general elections have transpired. And I know we're going to have some good conversations. This morning, 6-2 said, well, this is what political actors should be looking at, what the mood and temperament of the people can be if the right things are not done.
And we've been joined on the telephone line by Rashid Tanko Computer Al-Hajj. He's the Deputy Director of Elections and IT for the NDC. Al-Hajj, good morning to you. I trust that you're well.
Oh, no, I'm great. Trust everybody's fine.
Yes, Al-Hajj, we are all doing well. How has it been reliving the moments from a year ago, 7th December 2025? I've seen different individuals posting different memes and videos from last year. I suppose you were in the thick of things, and so you couldn't really savor the moment as to what happened. Have you been able to do that now, a year on?
Well, it's a great reflection. I mean, if we look at it, we wish our boss, Dr. Manibwama, was with us for us to review the year. Unfortunately, we lost him along the line. May his soul rest in perfect peace. We've taken on the challenge. We are pursuing and still keeping our eye on the ball. We've looked at it clearly, and we had no option than to thank the good people of Ghana. They did very well by supporting us to make sure that we stop the rigging machinery of the NPP in collaboration with their crooked officers at the EC. That's what we have to thank Ghanaians for. I mean, they help us in stopping them because they were bent on rigging the election. Everything pointed towards them rigging the election, and we had to stop them. And we did this through the support of the good people of Ghana. We just wanted to arrest the soul of this country. It was going down the drain, and we needed to stop that. So we are thankful to the Lord and the good people of Ghana. And I can assure you, even if elections were held yesterday, NPP would have gotten 30%. They would have gotten 30%. Considering the type of governance style His Excellency John Dramani Mahama is pursuing, clearly Ghanaians have come to see better governance. They've seen that our culture and tradition is incorporated into his government style, and they are living with it. And so we are certain that we are on the right course. We are going on the right path. The manifesto is being implemented, and everything is on course.
1 year on the Mahama administration, or since he emerged victorious, you say that if elections were held yesterday, he will still win and win convincingly. There are those who say, yes, great successes chalked, but still, we're not quite out of the woods yet. You've given workers just 9% in terms of salary increases, and already utilities is 27% increase by the 1st of January. Are we beginning to see the true sense of what the NDC intends doing to the Ghanaian beginning to reflect? Is a question being asked.
Well, considering what we came and met, if we were to go by the optics, I don't think Ghanaian workers would have gotten anything. They wouldn't have gotten anything. That is why we had to put in prudent measures in order to arrest the downtrain of the economy, in order to get something. We are not saying that is what Ghanaians deserve, but something for them, to cushion them. Because the economy was in tatters. This economy was described as a junk economy. It was completely out. And Ghanaians saw it. They were living with it. You think they didn't know? They know of it. It was completely in a mess. Are you surprised His Excellency former President Kufuor is also enumerating the crimes of the NPP? That led Ghana onto his knees. I don't think President Kufuor has ever voted for NDC. And he governed this country under the banner of NPP. And he said it all. I mean, he captured it succinctly. And so we, in fact, should be applauded for even managing to get something for the good people of Ghana, the workers. Because the economy couldn't have sustained it if we hadn't done something smart. And we have to thank His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, his finance minister, the governor of the Bank of Ghana, the management of the economy, the team. They have done yeoman's job. I mean, it's early days yet. Look at that. A government in power just less than 12 months, we are now in our 12 months moving, that you will not see even one scandal anywhere in the government. It's unprecedented. You can't see this. Since 1992, we started this process. We've seen governors, came several of them, scandals after scandals, some 2 months in office, scandal, 3 months, scandal rocking them all over. But this is a president. He has the benefit of the hindsight. He came in within the shortest possible time. He managed to arrest the downturn of the economy and spoken well to his appointees and warned them severely. And they are living his lifestyle, and that I don't want to see any scandal in anybody agency. Please keep your eye on the ball and make sure that the good people have the benefit of their labor. And that is what we are doing.
But you would agree the honeymoon phase for the John Mahama administration is over, and from here on, the scrutiny will only become more in terms of the promises you made and whether or not you're delivering, because the Women's Bank is yet to come into fruition, even though there was allocation made to it in the 2025 budget, same as 2026. The 24-hour economy policy, which was a huge message, 1 job, 3 shifts. We just saw a bill laid in Parliament, and people are beginning to ask the questions, okay, improvement in terms of the handling of the city. Inflation is down to about 6.8% and what have you, but where are these big ticket items, some of which you mentioned?
Now, there's nowhere in our manifesto that we give to the good people of Ghana that we said we're implementing the 24-hour economy within a week or within 2 weeks, and that is the end of it. It's a process. It's a huge process we have put in place, and we are implemented in stages. It's one of the major promises that we are going to keep, and we will make sure that Ghanaians are going to benefit. I also speak now, certain agencies are rolling out 24-hour economy. I can tell you, GVLA, now they're running 24-hour economy. A lot of agencies are running it. It's on course, it's a phases that's been run. You see, it's not, you can't just give birth to a baby today and think that the baby will walk. I've never seen a child like that. It's a process. And we are doing just that, justice to the process. I can assure you, look, we didn't even enjoy any honeymoon. You saw it. The day we were sworn in, the following day, these people started press conferences after press conferences. They are all over the place, running helter-skelter. Every day, press conferences. They've not even given us honeymoon. I think we are still in campaign mood. Since January. They've not given us any honeymoon, and we are not ready for it because we have been voted in to come and deliver. And so we've taken the challenge, and we are doing justice to that. So, Mauna, can assure you, we are ready for it. Citizens welcome. We want Ghanaians to let us know where we are not performing, so we up our game in that. They voted us to do service for them, and we are doing justice to that. I can assure you, we are not going to rubbish any criticism coming anywhere. We will take it on board and make sure that we refine the processes very well so that our people, look, the ultimate beneficiary of governance is the people. And that is what we want our people to benefit. And they are doing that, they are enjoying it. And that's why I indicated very clear that, look, next year, 2026 is going to be a lovely year. It's going to be a beautiful year. A lot of projects, a lot of activities going to be rolled out by the government. And Ghanaians will really continue to enjoy the better governance that we have delivered to them. The research agenda is ongoing.
Let's talk the elections. When you started, you said, look, you thank Ghanaians for helping you stay vigilant because the Electoral Commission was on some alleged agenda to rig the elections. There was a lot of talk about reforms as to the elections because you in the NDC had quite a lot to say in terms of the processes which were being undertaken for the elections. But since you won, you've gone quiet. People will say you were making all that noise just because you were in opposition, and there's been no conversation whatsoever from the NDC again about possible reforms to our electoral process. How come you've gone quiet?
Mauna, we are not quiet. We are not quiet about it. You know, my boss was talking about, he started talking about it the reforms that we proposed, and they rejected those reforms. We said we're going to pursue it even when, look, we come to office. If they reject it, we come to office, we'll make sure that the governance will make sure that we pursue those reforms and to be implemented. Absolutely, now Ghanaians gave us a mandate. And you think we are going to fold our arms? We will do that for the reforms. Very soon you will hear from us. In fact, we are just putting documents together to make sure that we bring it on the table. At IPAC level, we will start discussing matters of this nature. No, we are not going to fold our arms. A lot of ills were done during the electoral process. And you saw you people recovered it. Sometimes we'll be in meeting from evening up to midnight, trying to just let them do the right thing. Ghanaians deserve better. Not this type of governance structure that we suffered under the regime of Nana Akufo-Addo.
And by
for the reforms, we'll pursue it.
And by these reforms, do you mean a change in leadership of the Electoral Commission as well? Because we know there are quite the petitions that's been forwarded by the President to the Chief Justice seeking her removal. Does that form a part of what the NDC describes as reforms?
No, it wasn't part of our reform. That was not our agenda. We didn't talk about it during the registration period and all that. You remember the things we're talking of. You remember we talk of the forensic audit of the register. You remember that one? It was a serious matter. We indicated that should Ghanaians give us a mandate, we will make sure that the register is properly scrutinized. We have to look at it because a lot of ills occasioned in the register. We talked about it. We talked about the Electoral Commission is from their IT department in reforms because we realized that they didn't have a director of IT and all that. They needed to take it as seriously. It appeared the consultant who was doing it had some problems with the way he handled the data and all that. We are talking about reforms in data management of the Electoral Commission. We spoke extensively about them. We spoke extensively about the way manner they did the registration, trying to restrict the registration into their offices, district offices. When people had to travel some 100 kilometers to come and register, and after registering, you saw the kind of transfers which were occasioned. People were just being transferred left and right without their knowledge. So there were a lot of things that we saw. And we also looked at the CI 127. So we saw that there was some lacuna in the way some of the processes were being handled. And we needed to find a way out of it. And the only way to do that was to come up with a new CI that will stand the test of time, and then it will be passed by Parliament. And so all these things, there are things that we are looking at, and then we'll package it nicely and make sure that at stakeholder level, we all discuss it and see how best we can move ahead. But as to removal of who and who, it wasn't part of our reforms.
But do you support it, considering all of the challenges you had as a party with the current leadership? Yes, not the NDC behind it, but do you support a possible change in leadership, even as you push forward your reforms?
Well, that's what I'm saying. That for us, as a political party, our main opponent currently also has challenges with the leadership of the Electoral Commission. And we, through our national chairman, spoke extensively about their leadership style, and they need to reform their own style. Not NDC to tell them to reform their own style. We need not to tell them. They should know. That's why they have been appointed. So if people have challenges with you, you need to change your style of doing things. Look, we thought it was only NDC who had difficulties with them and were raising issues about the way they were handling the commission. But currently our own opponents are also having the same problem. They even held press conference asking for their heads. So for us, it doesn't lie in the mouth of the NDC to decide as to whether they should be removed or they should be maintained. No, that one there, some petitioners have already petitioned. The president is a conveyor belt. He has sent it to Chief. Let's wait and see what comes out of it.
Right. Alaj, I'll thank you for joining us this morning for this conversation.
I'm grateful. And
we'll continue to savor it. I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to meet in studio one of these days as well.
Very well.
That's Alhaj Rashid Tanko Computer. Let's get on to the other telephone lines just quickly. Professor Enokentri is a governance expert as well. He's joining us quickly for a recap of really what the 2024 election was like. Prof, good morning to you. I trust that you're well as well.
Yes, good morning and happy Monday.
A year on, and you were in one part in the studio of TV3 at some point in time as we were experiencing the 2024 elections unfold before our eyes. 1 year on, what would you say is the assessment of President Mahama's 1 year in governance before we even zoom into whether or not lessons have been learned from that 2024 elections?
Thank you and greetings to your listeners everywhere in the world. If you look at the past 1 year, it has been very phenomenal for President Mahama. And I'm going to list 21 major things that has happened so that Ghanaians will compare as to what MPP did within the same 1 year. If you look at the past government, there was just debt exchange that broke pensioners. We had cathedral issues. We had PDS scandal. We had Galamsey issue. We had nuisance taxes. We had a weak city. Now, corruption and scandals were also rife during the past administration for the 8 years. Now, I'm going to list 21 major things that the NDC have done, and in effect, President Mahama and his team has done for the past 1 year. One is the tax reforms. So e-levy scrapped, COVID levy, 10% debt winning tax, emission levy, all these have been scrapped. And that has alleviated some of the hardships of business people and the average Ghanaian. Then second is the National Economic Dialogue. Remember, that was to find the true state of the economy and then prepare homegrown solutions. So most of the homegrown solutions that we are finding, that I will list a couple of them, is coming from the National Economic Dialogue. Three is that they halted state land sales. Remember, there was a lot of sales of state land. Even the only greenery that we have in Accra, which is Achimota Forest, were being sold by some politicians, and they halted that. Four, they launched the priority job creation program, such as the Ejumawura National Apprenticeship Program, and then the $1 million code program. So million coder program, the National Apprenticeship Program, and then the Ejumawura. That was number 4. 5 is the free tertiary education for persons with disabilities. 6, Ghana Medical Care Trust Fund, which is Mahama Care. 7, free sanitary pads distribution to female students of primary and secondary schools. 7, no, I'm going to 8 now. Constitutional Review Committee, remember they have just finished their job. And we've had Kufuor, who was a lawyer, Nanadu, who was a lawyer. None of them touched our aging constitution. Remember, the 1992 constitution has been 33 years now, and there were a lot of lapses and a lot of old, outdated parts of the constitution. He set up the Constitutional Review Committee, which have just finished their work and have sent the report to the president. So we're going to see a lot of changes in our constitution. And most people, including myself, have been talking about tenets of our constitution that needs to be changed. 9 is the ORA, Operation Recover All Loot. And that was to gather evidence on state resources stolen by corrupt state officials. So ORA is also one of the things. City has been strengthened from 16 and over to 11. So our city, based on Gold Board, have really strengthened our city. That we have the lowest inflation of our time for many years, the lowest in many years. Now, as at November, our inflation was 6.3%. And because of that interest rate, if you want to go to the bank to borrow, to buy anything, the interest rate has really been reduced, which is great. We've also had the Women Development Bank, which is one of the areas for women to do business, which is one of the great things. Money has been allocated for that. One thing that Ghanaians downplay, that is number 13, the National Day of Prayer and Thanksgiving. You know, we have over 70% of Ghanaians, and we also have over 20% of our Muslim brothers who pray constantly. So if there's a National Day for prayer and, Thanksgiving, just like Americans do every 28th of November every year as Thanksgiving Day, go home and then celebrate the day to thank God for their family. I think it's a good thing that we should sustain it. Then, stronger city, I've talked about that. Food inflation has eased to 6.6% in November this year, and now we are seeing that it has even reduced to 6.1%. if food prices goes down, clothing, you can wear one cloth or similar clothing for a whole year. But food you need to eat in the morning, afternoon, and evening. That is why we need food prices to go down. So when food inflation goes down, it helps to ease everybody's pocket. And then we have our credit worthiness. Remember that we were rated as junk economy. Now we are doing very well in our economy. There has also been consistent peace for the past 1 year. The arrogance that we saw in the previous government is no more. President Mahama is a very calm, cool, and collected person. And because of that, we have that kind of peace in the country. We've also never had any scandal for the past 1 year in his administration, which is really good. And he's had a penchant to heal Ghanaians because for far too long, Ghanaians suffered for the past 8 years and they were not happy. Parliament has also passed many legislations than before. Remember when we had a 137, it was a hand parliament.
It was difficult to have,
we couldn't do much. Now Parliament is passing a lot of laws.
Prof,
all the by-elections NDC have won. So there seems to be momentum on the side of NDC now.
Right. In terms of all of the achievements you've listed, just one sticks out, that the Women's Development Bank is yet to see fruition despite monies being allocated to it. Then there is a mention of Galamsey and the fact that it is proven a negative for this particular administration based off on the commentary we saw in opposition and the work being done to have it addressed now. Then there's a 24-hour economic policy which, to the minority, hasn't taken off. A bill has just been laid.
Yes, the minority will have the say. But I think that one issue of Galamsey, we are not out of the woods yet. And I like the way the president put it, that he's not in illusion that he will be able to solve Galamsey within the shortest possible time. Now we have NIMOS. And the way NIMOS is working is such that a lot of foreigners and even Ghanaians are being caught every day and being prosecuted. Yesterday, I saw in the news, 16 region here, Abomosu area, they really, rounded over 40 people. So they are working hard on the Galamsey issue. We need to do more, inviting all stakeholders, providing alternative source of livelihood, making sure that those Nananom, because nobody can go to any land. Lands are typically allocated to the traditional people. And nobody can come to mine Galamsey in your land without the chief, without the assembly members, without the MCEs, without the DCEs, without the MPs, having knowledge about that. So we need to look more into that and make it a collective effort. It is not government alone that will solve Galamsey. All of us in our communities, when we see something and we say it, we will be able to solve that. Now, there are a lot of people also in the woods. Remember, one of the TV3 programs I was talking to, and Kwame Gentua was supposing that shoot and kill. And I said that violence cannot be the way we can use to solve Galamsey. Now, somebody called me with a block number and said, Prof, you are very intelligent. And I asked him why. He said, the ammunitions we have in the bush, people have no idea. So it means that a lot of things are happening at the bushes of these Galamsey. They are prepared with guns, and I'm talking about sophisticated guns. So solving that issue is going to take some time. And I think that we are on the right path in fixing the Galamsey. Now, talking about the 24-hour economy, we have what they call the Facilities Management Plan, the FMPs. If you want to have a massive policy such as the 24-hour economy, remember we need electricity to run 24 hours. And that has been fixed because when NDC came to power, they had less than a week for supply of electricity. Everything was messed up, so they were set up to fail. And that has been fixed now. Now that we have constant electricity, we work on our pipe, we are working on our roads. That is when factories and manufacturing can work, because when you have a 24-hour economy, everybody should be oriented to understand that it's not all of us who are going to wake up 8 a.m. and go to work, and by 5 p.m. we are all in the traffic coming back home. No. Now some people are going to work in the night. Some people are going to work, day shift in the morning till like 2, some from 3 to like 10 p.m., and others the night shift. That is what we have to prepare ourselves for. So I think that the maintenance of it is that the foundation of the 24-hour economy, the policies, the facilities management plan, the way the policies are laid out, everything is done now. Now, from January 2026 is what we're going to see happening for the 24-hour economy.
Right.
I am of the belief that people want to see the impact of all the 21 achievements that are listed about the NDC government for the past 1 year in their pocket. And that is what the government should be working on. Then the second thing is that they should not forget the people. So those who have been given appointment, when they call you and you don't take it, that affects the political party negatively at the grassroots. So begin to pay calls, talk to the people. Even if you cannot help, tell them that you will see what you can do or you are working on it. That is the way to appease the grassroots. And I think that is the way that NDC can hold on to power for a long time.
Right. Just finally on election reforms, there's been very little talk on that. I was asking Rashid Tanko saying, it looks like everybody's just gone to sleep and we're waiting for another election, and then whatever concern it is that we have will come up again.
Yes, I agree with, excuse me, I agree with Rashid on that. You know, most people who were talking for NDC in particular, the communication team, most of them have been given appointments. And once they get appointment, it's like most of them are quiet now because they are engaged elsewhere in national assignments. I think that the core team should begin to highlight what the government has done. Because Ghanaians are such that unless you keep telling them, remember NDC had a green book, and they listed everything in the green book, but it didn't go to the grassroots for the people to know that indeed this is what the government has done. And because your Maxwell have said that leadership is always lonely at the top, sometimes it gets to a point that the president will not get from the grassroots what is going on there. I also plead that those around the president should allow individuals to talk to the president more. Because if you are all thinking the same, then nobody is thinking. Individuals should have access to the president to talk about many issues. Because many things can happen at the blank side of those who are close to the president.
Right. Right. Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us as well this morning.
Thank you and have a great day. That's
Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi, as a governance expert as well, speaking to us this morning, Helen. And unfortunately, our friends in the NPP cannot be a part of this conversation for very obvious reasons. We're always working to have them join us to the best of our abilities in having these conversations, because they are very important conversations. A year on after the elections, having all the parties gather, huddle together, see what worked, what didn't work. Perhaps the only thing we can resort to is President Kufuor's interview from this weekend, where he was explaining the reasons why he believes the party may have lost the elections, amongst many other things. But this is the NDC's position, and Professor Enoch Opoku-Antwi's as well assessment of what it is has transpired since December 7 of last year up until now.
That's right. And speaking about the opposition side, it would be interesting to find out whether or not their position has changed on the reasons for which they suffered that defeat last year. Because once the elections had wrapped up, the narrative was initially around the assertion that supporters of the New Patriotic Party simply did not go out to vote. And that was what caused the demise of the party in the election. Then subsequent to that, I think the narrative began to evolve. Maybe there was some more research done. We know some investigations were commissioned. We have the Michael Quay report, which still isn't public knowledge, am I right?
No,
with a few people saying they've seen paragraph 25 and so on and so forth. It would be interesting to know whether or not that assessment has changed or that assertion is now different. And what lessons have been learned a year on. We know, of course, that the NPP is gathering momentum, to head to the polls as far as their flag bearership race is concerned. It'll also be good to find out how they overall, view the issues that came up with Ghanaians consistently, at least from what I gathered or what I measured in the atmosphere, social media and beyond, that it had to do with things like DDEP, had to do with things like arrogance of power, had to do with things like corruption scandals. If we had that alternative voice, I would be very intrigued to know, a year on, is the position still that many supporters didn't, go out to vote? Or, as the narrative has evolved, has it now reached the same place as what the everyday Ghanaian was saying? Does the NPP agree that it had to do with these different factors, the economy, corruption scandals, and so on and so forth? But a year in, we still have many questions to ask of the NDC.
Absolutely. Lots of questions to ask. We'll take this conversation finally to Richard Kumado on particularly the election-related matters and conversations about reforms and prosecutions. Mr. Kumado, I appreciate you speaking to us this morning as well. We've seen the December 7 elections come and go, and there was quite the election-related infractions which should have seen some investigations. We know there were concerns of missing BVDs and what have you in the lead up to the elections, which were subject matters of investigations. I've heard next to nothing about those. Is that problematic in itself, and shouldn't we have brought closure to a number of these to engender the confidence that is needed?
I agree with you. To the extent that investigations are completed and the report has been submitted, it is just proper that perpetrators are punished and the lapses that occur are reviewed and addressed, particularly when it comes to election violence. And you just suppose what we saw at Ekotia, which means that the safety breaches and the security lapses that led to some of the breaches has been resolved by the current IGP at what we saw at Ekotia. But then the violence itself from the year 2020 to 2024, which led to the loss of life, the investigation report is completed and it is proper that actions are taken. That will bring closure to the families that have lost their relatives in the elections we are talking about. So that is one aspect. The other aspect, again, that has been cured by what we saw at Akotia was the procedural issues and the process management inefficiencies that led to the destruction of the materials and the burning of the coalition centers in the first place. If we can benchmark what happened at Akotia, even though it's just one constituency, and run it through as part of the process review, then we will be taking the decisions, making sure that where we got it from, we are fixing them before the next major election. But now we also have 7 petitions against the electoral commissioners. Would they be in office to make sure that these reforms are pushed through, or the next person who takes over from them will help us down? It means that we might not be doing something right with our electoral commissioners, and therefore the tendency of having a low-hanging fruit carried into the 2028 election could still be around.
And for the tensions you speak of which could be around, how do we begin to address it in terms of a look ahead? Because I ask this knowing fully well that even with the lethargy with which we are approaching matters in relation to elections, investigations we understand should have been conducted and concluded in some of the violence we witnessed from 8 years and 4 years ago. The Interior Minister addressed a news conference and gave an update. We haven't heard anything again. There's all of that needs to be dealt with ahead of the next election.
Definitely, yes. One of the things we don't do properly is what we call process review. Elections are major national events. And when elections are over and results have been gazetted, there has to be a process review. Law enforcement, the election commissioners, together with the political parties. If they are able to do that, then things that borders on infractions could be addressed. Things that borders on criminality can also be addressed through the courts. And things that borders on electoral reforms, where the political parties must come in and work together with the electoral commissioners, can also be addressed on real time. But usually we don't do it. We will leave it until there's another election and there's a fight at IPAC. I think that to the extent that we let our political leaders through elections and knowing how fragile election outcomes can destabilize the state, we should make it a point that at the end of every year, at the end of every 4 years, when national elections are held, particularly at the highest level for parliamentary and for president, the process will have to be effectively reviewed That is the only way we can have the best out of our elections. Other than that, we pile on problems, and when they get out of hand, we begin to react. One of the way of reacting is to say that go and investigate 2020 and 2024, something we should have done long time ago. And if the results are not acted upon, you are creating the premises that people can take the law into their own hands, kill people under the disguise of elections, and nothing can be done with them.
We have Pandai possibly in the offing. As that rerun, which has been ordered by the High Court, we know there are pending matters before the court seeking to challenge that. But assuming all of that should go through and that rerun should happen, we've seen the IGP's display at Akwetia. More of the same in policing elections going forward?
Definitely, yes. What we saw at Akwetia will be benchmarked, that the IGP Christian Tete Yehono will benchmark at Pandai, and many of the other ones that will come during the 2 years extension, if there are any. But that is the law enforcement side of things. The electoral commissioner must come to the job well prepared, ready to exhibit and conduct the election in the manner that the voice degenerating into chaos. But then again, I've said this somewhere and it created chaos. Mauna, I saw you at Ekwatia. I saw many of your colleagues. Apart from police writing the numbers and declaring the results, they have virtually done everything. So why are we not handing over the elections to the police to conduct in the face of the ineptitude we saw from the electoral commission and the electoral officers that led to many of these agitations that led to court contesting some of the eligibility of some of the candidates, that one of them is leading us to Pandai.
I'm not sure that's very possible, because the Electoral Commission's mandate is steeped in the Constitution, as a matter of fact, and it cannot be handed over to the police. A collaboration, yes, but to say the police should be conducting it will be too stretched.
Agreed. But I'm just saying that the professionalism of the police help us a lot. And apart from just filling up the form and announcing the results, was what the Electoral Commission was supposed to do. So we hope and pray that they benchmark the professionalism and the expertise the police display, that they should also come to the job with that same level of preparedness. And our elections will be free and fair. And this is what we've been asking for all these years. And if you look at the discrepancies that occur, the procedural issues, the process management flaws that led to certain candidates being challenged in court and that led to death, it may not be coming from the police, but all of them came through the ineptitude of the election officers. And we need to keep our eyes there, whether we are going to Panda or not, if we want our elections to be credible, to be acceptable, and to be the best.
Mr. Kumado, thank you very much for speaking to us. That's Richard Kumado, a fraud and security expert, speaking to us this morning as well.